Mike, I just want to say that is not a green screen. You are actually in the Bahamas right now. What's the vibe? What's going on?
Well, the vibe is it's amazing, Katie, how much different it is in Bitcoin 2022 in Miami a few weeks ago. There was much more institutional focus. Here, it's a unique space with institutions. That was retail there, institutions. So you're seeing today, there's a lot of headlines are disrupting the financial system and asset allocators and regulation and stable coins, how they're taking over. But one thing that was really unique yesterday was that juxtaposition between the combination of geeks and jocks. When Sam Bankman-Fried sat on the stage and talked with Tom Brady, both very successful. It just shows the tolerance of the space. Sam Bankman-Fried my wife would say, needs a haircut. He has an old pair of shorts on and a T-shirt, and Mr. Brady looks so great. So it's kind of a unique setup.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He sleeps on a beanbag, Mike. He doesn't care about that stuff. Not talking about Tom Brady, of course.
You've got $30 billion. I mean, at that point, who does care?
Yeah, or Sam Bankman-Fried does.
Yeah.
So you talked about Tom Brady, SBF. We've heard Giselle. People were walking by her yesterday. Cathie Wood is there. Who else have you seen? Who are the personalities that you've seen?
Well, I definitely Anthony Scaramucci. I had a nice conversation with him yesterday. I asked him about the key question I asked him is, what stops the tokenization of all assets? He's obviously related with FTX. And he said, nothing. Just a question of when the regulation catches up in this space and what are stablecoins? They're basically in crypto dollars. They're just tokenized dollars. Key persons I met was also the premier of the Bahamas. He's here, and he's part of those leaders willing to accept the new technology, not take the risk of falling behind. So he's been here and he's promoting that in Bahamas, similar to what I saw in Bermuda with the premier Prime Minister of Bermuda just a few weeks ago. So those are the kind of the key people. Mr. Wonderful's here. There's just so many important people. Then there's also the people you don't know about so much, the celebrities behind the scenes. Like we're interviewing a person named Darius Sit. He runs an investment firm in Singapore. From him, I've learned a lot about how the rest of the world really are attracted to stable coins. Right? It's a good way to get exposure to the dollar through their wallet versus the traditional currencies they're used to that melt over time.
And let's get into stablecoins in just a minute, but I do want to ask you first, because you and I actually were on a Twitter Spaces last night. That was a lot of fun. And you said something that really resonated with me, that you haven't really heard the word Bitcoin down there, that actually the world's largest cryptocurrency, it's not really a topic of conversation down there in the Bahamas.
Well, it's so true, Katie. If you just look at today's list, maybe they intentionally did that. I don't see Bitcoin in one headline. I haven't heard people discuss it a lot. And I've actually spent much more time in the press room and in the background versus listening to what's on stage. But obviously, it's a big difference from Bitcoin 2022, but it is a crypto conference. It's the bigger picture. I've heard the word Solana mentioned a few times, which means I have to catch up on my research because I have to admit, I'm not so dug into Solana versus Ethereum. And there's so many of them, but it's the whole infrastructure building that is really the focus here. Institutions getting the space. And as we mentioned last week, discussed a little, I sat next to a few pension funds and endowments that they might not be allocated, but they need to learn. And that's what I think a lot of the focus here is institutions getting this space. And it's people like Mike Novogratz, who said, who's here, said that it's a wave. It's just the wave is coming slowly, but it's coming.
And Solana, just for our audience and for you, Mike, I mean, it's supposed to be, faster. It's supposed to be cheaper, especially than Ethereum. I'm sure you've heard about gas fees on Ethereum. But in any case, let's go back to stablecoins, because that's one of my favorite topics. So they're supposed to be one-to-one pegged to the US dollar. They're usually backed by reserve assets such as treasuries or other commercial paper. Mike, what are you hearing? Why is there so much energy around stablecoins in particular at this conference?
Well, number one is probably the first place to look at for regulation. And what I've noticed, starting in 2008, when Tether, the only one around back then, was 2 billion. Now the whole space is about 200 billion. Is there's the most consistent trend in all cryptos is the upward trajectory of the market cap and trading volume in stablecoins. It's just a better way to do business. Now, initially, yes, it was for knocking around and taking speculation in the actual cryptocurrencies. Now you have entities like Visa and MasterCard involved. And I liked how Anthony Scaramucci answered my question yesterday about CBDCs and potential U.S. government getting involved. And he says, that's not really the way this this country works. We don't really want that autocratic, and we're not going to get involved with knowing about everybody's transaction. But the key thing about stablecoins or crypto dollars, the world has already gone to the dollar organically through cryptos, and the most widely traded crypto on the planet is Tether. Yes, it's a stablecoin. Yes, it's controversial, but now there's a dozen Tether wannabes, and they all have good use cases. And as a piece of people at Visa will say, it's just the better way to transact in dollars and to clear your transaction in dollars 24/7, instant settlement. You actually earn interest.
Mike, you mentioned regulation, and I'm wondering what the conversation is around regulation there in the Bahamas. And I have seen pictures of people who are parts of the Blockchain Association who are there, who've spoken openly about regulation, who are in Washington, D.C., talking to lawmakers. What do the advocates want to see when it comes to what the U.S. government does with regard to crypto?
Most significant thing I've heard, Tim, is just give us the rules and we'll play by the rules. Obviously, they want the rules to not be oppressive, but once we know the rules, then we will follow and move. Because this is not, an evolution, which I thought it was 4 years ago. This is a revolution. And regulations needed, and just like anything else, technology moves so fast, particularly faster every day, and regulation moves slow, it's catching up. But that's what they want as rules. So we have crypto dad, Mr. Chris Giancarlo, speaking later. He's actually going to be presenting at Bloomberg on May 11th, along with crypto mom. So that's what most people here say, show us the rules and we'll figure it out. And that's the key thing about this space. It's so much positive, very smart people who are just going to figure it out, but make sure, we just hope the regulations aren't oppressive. For instance, you don't want the U.S. government to push back on a wonderful organic trend that's increasing the dominance of U.S. dollar globally, organically through cryptos.